सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। In the last session, we started next important topic of how to perform Nirvikalpa Samadhi, how to reach the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Verses 368 onwards, the topic goes up to 397. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji introduced the topic by saying that there are first few steps that one must take in order to, what we say, perfect the stage of Samadhi. Yogasya prathamam dwaram. What is that? Vang nirodha, controlling the speech. Aparigraha, not holding on to things. Nirasha, absence of expectations or desires. Niriha, absence of activity. Nityam ekanta shilata. And the fifth one was to ever remain in solitude. Now Shankaracharya ji explains these. First he takes up ekanta shilata means what? So he explains ekanta sthiti indriya uparamane hetuhu damaha. So what he is saying now, that ekanta shilata, that ekanta, now ekanta we saw two meanings. One meaning of ekanta is physical solitude, that you are at a place where nobody is disturbing you. Now that kind of ekanta leads to dhamma. Why? Because already there are less, temptations from the world, since you have secluded yourself from the world, and therefore dhamma becomes easier. Now when you practice dhamma, shama becomes easier. So dhamma results into shama. Shama results into vilaya of aham vasana, dissolution of that ego. Why? Because mind is controlled now. It is not breaking up into thoughts. So slowly from idam vritti, when they are reduced, aham vritti also starts to reduce. That then results in that experience of bliss. That is how he explains. And therefore, tasmat munehe satatam prayatna chitta nirodha karya. Therefore, one should always practice this mind control. Means what? Remaining in ekanta and going through the whole process, one should try to reach the state of supreme bliss. That's what he is saying here. So that ekanta is important. We also saw the different meaning of ekanta also is concentration, eka anta. Second meaning we saw was that to remain focused. And third meaning of ekanta means to remain alone inside, within. Means what? Not only physically you have secluded yourself from the world, but you are enjoying being within. You are enjoying your own company. You don't want anybody else. Now this is something which is very important for a seeker. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji always used to say, if you yourself don't enjoy your own company, why impose it on others? Why will anybody would like to be with you if you yourself don't want to be with yourself? Many of us, many of the times we do like that. No, we want people around. Why? Because when we are alone, our mind starts to play tricks with us. And we become depressed that nobody is with me, what is this? And the life is so boring. Such things happen. So we want to be with people to make our life interesting. But the thing is, if you are not enjoying your own company, how can anybody else enjoy your company? So ekanta also means that. Physical seclusion is one meaning, remaining focused is another meaning, but remaining within. Anta there means inside. Eka anta. Gurudev would say, alone to alone, all alone. That is the path. Alone to alone. You are also alone, you came alone, you are walking the path alone, to alone. That self that you are reaching is also alone. All alone. That is how the path is. So that ekanta, he gave importance to. Then he explained what is meant by Vāṅ Nirodha. Now here at this state, Vāṅ Nirodha is not just controlling the speech and not talking. But again Shankaracharya brings that point up to the end. See, when he says yogasya prathamam dwaram and he gives 5 things, each of those things he is pulling till the end. Ekanta he takes till the end of experience of bliss. Now here Vāṅ Nirodha also he does the same thing. He says Vāṅ Nirodha means controlling the speech. Means what? Dissolving, merging that speech into mind. Then dissolving that mind into intellect. Then dissolving that intellect into the witness of that intellect. And then dissolving that witness, sakshi, into that nirvikalpa Brahma, Purnatma. This is what is called here as Vāṅ Nirodha. Yached Vāṅ manasi pradhya, tad yached jnana atmani, jnana atmani mahati niyached, tad yached shanta atmani. That entire process explained in Kathopanishad. That he brings here. Now that is what is called. Now again this is what actually we are supposed to do in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This is what is happening. When you say, I am merging my speech into my mind, means what? I am not using the organs now anymore. The speech is not coming to the final level of actual physical words. It is remaining as thought. Now that idam vritti is remaining as aham vritti, we have got one step still behind. Mind is merged into intellect. Now that intellect is merged into sakshi, means what? I am not even identifying that aham vritti is also not happening. What am I saying? I am the witness of the thought. I am not the thought. I am not the one associated, identified with the thought, but I am the witness of the thought. And then you do the final step, final stage of merging also, when that sakshi, witness, is merged with the pure consciousness, where you are no more witness also. Right? So that is the process that Shankaracharya has given. After explaining these two, now he takes up the topic of vairāgya. Aparigraha was mentioned earlier. Now that vairāgya topic is taken and very beautifully. Last session we saw the 4 verses. No? First he said, when I am identifying with something, I become that thing. So when I am identifying with my body, I become dehi, the one who has body. And then what happens? Then all the vikaras, all the modifications which belong to the body, I take it to be my modifications. Jayate asti, vardate viparanamate, pakṣiyate vinashyati. All these becomes mine. Means what? I am born, now I am growing, then I am maturing, then I am now decaying and now I will die. Why? Because I am identifying with the body. So as long as I identify with some upadhi, I take that form. Vairāgya means what? Tan nivritya. Vairāgya means disassociation from those upadhis. This is one of the important aspects of vairāgya. Generally, we say vairāgya is not to have any desire for worldly enjoyment. That is how vairāgya is defined generally, isn't it? If we see even in the beginning, when sadhana chatushtaya is explained, virāgakaha iha swarga bhogeshu ichchārahityam, that's how we explain everywhere. That once we have understood what is nitya, what is anitya, then not to have desire for nitya or not to have craving for nitya, that is what is called as vairāgya. But here vairāgya is again taken to a higher level by saying that vairāgya is not just from external things, but from internal things too. Verse number 73, 373 and 374. Antastyāgaha bahistyāgaha viraktasyaiva yujyate. So there is at both levels detachment is happening. Bahistyāgaha, outside, what do you mean? Bahistu vishayaihi sangam. Outside what is there? Outside I am attached to objects. Tatha antaha ahamadibihi. And inside I am identified with the upadhis. So real vairāgya is what? Real vairāgya is not to be attached to the objects outside and not to identify with the upadhis inside. Both these things should be there. Right? That is what is called as real vairāgya. Now what Shankaracharya does, one very beautiful concept he brings here, that this vairāgya means, now what we are talking about vairāgya is vairāgya towards the world, not having minus mamata, and also vairāgya towards upadhis, not having I-ness. So ahanta and mamata both are to be dropped. Now he says, now please understand, when we are talking about vairāgya means not identifying with upadhis, we are unknowingly bringing a separate topic in, and that is knowledge. See, I am attached to the objects, okay, because of which I am sad, okay. So not to remain attached with the objects is vairāgya is fine. But to understand that I am not the upadhis and therefore I don't identify with the upadhis, so in that vairāgya there is concept of jnana also which is already present. With external vairāgya, very little jnana is required. And that jnana is gained by our experiences also. We live our life, we understand, no, how things are there of the world. We get attached to, many times it happens, no. Your neighbors, in India though it happens very, rampantly, it happens everywhere. I don't know about other countries. There is very different concept. They need to take permission, etc., to take care of neighbors' children, etc. But that doesn't happen in India. You must have seen sometimes you are in college or little higher school, 8th standard, 9th standard, etc. And suddenly the neighbor's kid becomes very close with your family. You must have experienced this. Suddenly that kid is always with you. Why? Because he gets some didi or bhaiya, some elder brother, some elder sister to play with, so enjoy. Now what happens? Unknowingly, this now young boy or young girl becomes attached to this child. Because of every day, no. Then what happens? No, then that entire struggle starts. Why? Because that child has got their its own mother, father and whole family, isn't it? Now what happens? By experience, that person understands that I should not become too much attached with that child. I am sure. See, why I am taking example of neighbor's child? Because that is a kind of experience that we get very clearly that I should not do it. With your own kids, no, that experience will not be there. Till they have kids also, you still are attached to them and you will never feel that this is something wrong. But with neighbor's kid, you get that experience that something is wrong. I should not do this. Why? I am the one who is suffering. And sometimes they come on rent, etc. They are there for a few years, then they go away, then you start wondering, now whole day what will I do? My half of the day used to go playing with that kid. So what I am saying is the vairāgya which is explained as from outside objects towards outside objects, experiences also tell us that we need to have vairāgya. But this inner vairāgya that is being spoken of, where it is said that you should not identify with the upadhis, this cannot come just by experience. This needs knowledge associated with it, coupled with it. So now what Bhagavan Shankaracharya does is, he puts both these things together, vairāgya and bodha, vairāgya and jnana, detachment and knowledge. And he explains, few concepts. Very beautiful verses are there, as I was mentioning in the last session. Very famous also, well known also. Let us start. Verse number 375. Vairāgyabodhau puruṣasya pakṣivat pakṣau vijānīhi vicakṣaṇa vimuktisaudhāgralatādhirohaṇaṃ tābhyāṃ vinā nānyatareṇa sidhyati. Vairāgyabodhau puruṣasya pakṣivat pakṣau vijānīhi vicakṣaṇa vimuktisaudhāgralatādhirohaṇaṃ tābhyāṃ vinā nānyatareṇa sidhyati. Hey vicakṣaṇa, tvam vijānīhi. You see the last three words of the first line. Hey vicakṣaṇa, O wise person, vicakṣaṇa one who has got, vicaksha one who has got knowledge. O wise person, sambodhana, tvam vijānīhi. You please come to understand this. You understand this. What should I understand? Vairāgyabodhau, vairāgya and bodha, dvivachana. Vairāgya and bodha, vairāgyabodhau, puruṣasya for a person, pakṣivat pakṣau, are like two wings of a bird. Pakṣivat, like a bird. Pakṣau, pakṣau means two wings. See how Shankaracharya, so much he tells. See, pakṣi is a word that we have all heard. Pakṣi means bird. Why that bird is called as pakṣi? Pakṣau asya asti iti pakṣi. One who has got wings. Pakṣau, pakṣau means wings. Pakṣau is again dvivachana, pakshaha, pakṣau, two wings. One who has got two wings is called as pakshi, bird. Now, how important are those two wings of that for that bird? That much is the importance of vairāgya and bodha for a person. So, compare yourself with a bird. Then how important are the two wings of that bird? That much importance should be given to vairāgya and bodha for yourself. For you, vairāgya and bodha are like your two wings. For what? Why do I need wings? Vimuktisaudhāgralatādhirohaṇaṃ. Adhirohaṇaṃ means to climb or to fly and reach. Adhirohaṇaṃ. Arohaṇaṃ means to climb. Adhirohaṇaṃ means to reach. Lata adhirohaṇaṃ. You are trying to reach a creeper. Lata, creeper. Where is this creeper? Saudhagra. Agra means on top of. Saudha. Saudha means mansion, palace. So, on top of a palace, on the terrace of the palace, there is a creeper on which you have to reach. What is this creeper? Vimukti. Liberation. vimuktisaudhāgralatādhirohaṇaṃ tābhyāṃ vinā nānyatareṇa sidhyati. Without these two wings, vairāgya and bodha, tābhyāṃ vinā anyatareṇa, by any one of it, na sidhyati. You cannot reach it. It cannot be attained. So just as for a bird, both wings are required to reach the top of a palace, for you as a person, as a seeker, to reach that lata, that creeper called liberation, what needs to be done? You need to have both the things, vairāgya also and knowledge also, bodha also. Detachment also and knowledge also. Now, importance of this verse, whatever I say will still be less. This verse is more important than whatever I am going to explain. Why? Because the clear-cut line between a seeker, an ascetic, and a scholar is this verse. Ascetic is a person who just has vairāgya but has no knowledge, who is just remaining away from everything, not attached to things, but doesn't have that knowledge which takes that person to the next level. Scholar is a person who has got knowledge but has got no vairāgya. He has got a lot of understanding. He has studied so many scriptures, knows the verses from front to end and end to front. Everything is known, but in life, vairāgya is not there. But a spiritual seeker should have both of these things together. A bird cannot fly with one wing. In the same way, we cannot fly and reach liberation with one wing. No, Vedji, this knowledge, etc. no, is too difficult. What is the point? You tell me, na? I have to live a simple life. I will live a simple. No, both are required. Some people, they say, I have knowledge. Knowledge gives liberation. Why I need vairāgya? My dear, to reach that state also you need. Okay, even to reach the top of a mansion, you need both wings. After you reach there, only knowledge will be sufficient. Fine. But to reach there, vairāgya is required. So, vairāgyabodhau puruṣasya pakṣivat pakṣau. Vairāgya and bodha, detachment and knowledge, are like the two wings for a bird. Now, you see, if you further closely analyze, vairāgya, how do you measure vairāgya? How do you know whether you have got vairāgya or not? So, the measurement of vairāgya is by how much chitta shuddhi you have got. Chitta shuddhi, pure mind, is what? The mind which is free of the worldly thoughts and free of what we say as the disturbances within. That is what is called a chitta shuddhi, pure mind, isn't it? And how do you know whether knowledge has come or not? By chitta ekagrata. Now we have been seeing from the beginning that chitta shuddhi and chitta ekagrata are must. Without that, liberation is not possible. Remember how many times we have seen this topic, that only one thing is there, other thing is not there, it won't work. So that is what is mentioned here by saying vairāgya and bodha, both should be there. Both are as much important. Without another, without one thing, the another cannot work. Tābhyāṃ vinā nānyatareṇa na sidhyati. Only one of the two will not work. There should be both. Vairāgya and bodha, both should be there. Are you getting where Shankaracharya is taking us to? He says, anyways, for inner vairāgya, knowledge is required. But that knowledge also should be fed. Why? Because they are the two most powerful means that you have to reach the state of liberation. What are the two most powerful means? Vairāgya and bodha. Now with this idea in mind, when we study other scriptures, suddenly everything starts making sense. We read Bhagavad Gita, etc. We start to understand why Bhagavan Shri Krishna is emphasizing on both. You see, again and again that topic will come. The moment he explains a lot about knowledge, he comes back and says, wait, but vairagya is important. Karma yoga, there, vairagya is explained as karma yoga. Right? Then again when that goes, then he says, but this karma yoga will only take you up to here. From there you have to take knowledge. He tries to balance both. He tries to balance both these things. And therefore, have this idea clear in mind that for a seeker, both vairagya and jnana are required. And now that we are talking about the step of samadhi, you imagine both are so important. Why? Because vairagya will stop the mind from hovering towards outside objects, and bodha, knowledge, will make sure that the mind focuses on the self. Those are the two steps in meditation or not? We have been seeing in nityasana there are only two steps. That first you take that mind away from the world, vairagya, and then that controlled mind has to be put in the self, jnana. Right? Therefore, both are very, very important. How? Because these two will take you to the mukti. That is what is the purpose now. Atmajnana has happened, but that experience of bliss has not happened. That is what you will get. Verse number 376. Atyantavairāgyavataḥ samādhiḥ. Samāhitasyaiva dṛḍhaprabodhaḥ. Prabuddhatattvasya hi bandhamuktiḥ. Muktātmano nityasukhānubhūtiḥ. Atyantavairāgyavataḥ samādhiḥ. Samāhitasyaiva dṛḍhaprabodhaḥ. Prabuddhatattvasya hi bandhamuktiḥ. Muktātmano nityasukhānubhūtiḥ. Continuing the tradition, Shankaracharya was talking about that ekanta, he took it to the final stage of bliss. Then he spoke about vāng nirodha and took it to that bliss. Now here also vairagya is taken to that bliss. He says, atyantavairāgyavataḥ samādhiḥ asti. For a person who has got atyantavairāgya, extreme detachment. Earlier in the same text, Vivekachoodamani itself, Shankaracharya said, what is atyantavairāgya? To have vairagya from vairagya also. That is called atyantavairāgya. That you are dispassionate towards dispassion itself. Right? So that extreme dispassion, detachment, one who has got, such a person, for them is this samadhi. For that person is this meditation. Samāhitasyaiva dṛḍhaprabodhaḥ. Now one who practices this meditation and reaches that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, for that person, dṛḍhaprabodhaḥ is dṛḍha, firm, prabodha, knowledge. For such a person in meditation is the firmness in the self-knowledge. Prabuddhatattvasya hi bandhamuktiḥ. Prabuddhatattvasya, for a person with firm knowledge, he indeed bandhamuktiḥ is the liberation from bondage. Muktātmanaḥ nityasukhānubhūtiḥ. And for a person who has got liberated from bondage, there is nityasukhānubhūtiḥ. There is experience of nityasukha, eternal bliss, or nitya anubhuti of sukha. Always that person will have an experience of bliss. That nitya can be taken in any ways. But this is again the path. Vairāgya leads to samadhi. Samadhi leads to dṛḍhaprabodhaḥ, that is that Atma Sakshatkara. That leads to mukti. And mukti leads to that Brahmananda Rasa Anubhuti. Okay? Now, please understand, though each path is taken to the ultimate, don't think that Shankaracharya is giving different paths. He is giving the same path with different meanings. Earlier he had said that Shuddha Buddhi and Sukshma Buddhi, Ati Sukshma Buddhi is required. Isn't it? Shuddha Buddhi is gained by Vairāgya. With that you do Shravana. With Tikshna Buddhi you do Manana. Then in Nididhyasana and Nirvikalpa Samadhi, what happens? The Buddhi becomes Sukshma. And with that Sukshma Buddhi, then you get Atmajnana and then you experience bliss. That same thing is explained here. So what he said earlier is telling the same point, but he is bringing it from a different angle so that we understand what we have to do. So here the point is Vairāgya and Bodha, both should go together. Why? Because both those things will take you to liberation. Now ideally, what should have happened? Ekanta he spoke of, Vāṅnirodha he spoke of, Vairāgya he spoke of. Topic should have been over. But he cannot contain himself from talking more about Vairāgya. So comes the next verse, which is very important. You can highlight the verse, one of the most beautiful verses on Vairāgya. Verse number 377. Vairāgyānna paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ.
Vairāgyānna paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ.
Paśyāmi vaśyātmanaḥ.
Paśyāmi vaśyātmanaḥ.
Tachet shuddhataratmabodhasahitam.
Tachet shuddhataratmabodhasahitam.
Swarajyasamrajyadhuk.
Swarajyasamrajyadhuk.
Etadvaramajasramuktiyuvateः.
Etadvaramajasramuktiyuvateः.
Yasmāttvamasmāt paraṃ.
Yasmāttvamasmāt paraṃ.
Sarvatrāspruhaya sadātmani sadā.
Sarvatrāspruhaya sadātmani sadā.
Prajñāṃ kuru śreyase.
Prajñāṃ kuru śreyase.
Vairāgyānna paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ. Paśyāmi vaśyātmanaḥ. Tachet shuddhataratmabodhasahitam. Swarajyasamrajyadhuk. Etadvaramajasramuktiyuvateः. Yasmāttvamasmāt paraṃ. Sarvatrāspruhaya sadātmani sadā. Prajñāṃ kuru śreyase. First phrase itself is most powerful. Vairāgyānna paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ paśyāmi vaśyātmanaḥ. Vairāgyāt paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ vaśyātmanaḥ na paśyāmi. Na paśyāmi, I do not see. Very few times we will find the teacher talking in first person. See, so far we have always seen that there is something like this, asti, this is like this is like that, this a person should do like that. Here Shankaracharya, the teacher, is talking in first person. He says, aham na paśyāmi. I do not see, I do not consider sukhasya janakaṃ, creator of joy. Janaka means creator, father. Sukhasya for the joy. Vaśyātmanaḥ, for a person who is self-controlled, for a seeker, I don't see any other creator of joy, vairāgyāt paraṃ, which is higher than vairāgya detachment. Means what? Vairāgya is the greatest creator of joy. Vairāgya is the greatest creator of joy. If you want to be happy, the best way is to have vairāgya. The best way to have is vairāgya. Why? Because any joy that we get from experience of the world of objects is perishable, permanent, and it leaves us with a sense of what we say as incompleteness. That something is missing, something still remains. You want more and more and more with every single indulgence of the sense objects. So, experiencing the objects and getting the joy is not actually the correct joy that we are getting or we are wanting. The actual joy will come when we have vairāgya. That's why Ishavasya Upanishad says, Tena tyaktena bhunjithaha. By giving up, you enjoy. Now, many times what happens, this giving up and enjoyment, people don't understand. They think, if I give up, then how will I enjoy? But the real fun is in that only. In giving up. Why? Because as long as we are holding on, it's not joy. It is not. The real joy is only possible through vairāgya. There is a very famous story which is also there in Upanishad Ganga also. The happy man's shirt. Very famous story is there. One king wanted to find the happiest person. So he sent all the ministers, etc. Whoever can get me shirt of a happiest person in the kingdom, I'll give that person lot of gifts, etc. So everybody went on searching, but nobody could find, because everybody that they met, are you happiest? They said, we are happy, but cannot be said as happiest. And when finally they got a person living under some bridge, etc., under some cart, that fellow is living, the person is not wearing shirt only. So the happy man's shirt is a myth. Why? Because the person who is really happy doesn't have any belonging. That's the beauty of it. The one who has got a lot of things is not happy. The faster we understand this, better will be for our life. Because then we will stop running away, running towards the riches and the, comforts of life. See, again, when it is said vairāgya, earlier itself, Shankaracharya has clearly explained what is vairāgya. Not to have objects is not vairāgya. Not to enjoy is not vairāgya. But not to have craving for enjoyment of the objects is vairāgya. In first 10 verses only this point is clarified by Shankaracharya. Go back and check. In the very beginning he is explaining all these things. That vairāgya is not to not have objects. Objects may be there. Vairāgya is also not that don't enjoy. Control. You are a Vedantin. Don't smile. When gulab jam goes into your mouth, don't show any kind. That is not. Enjoy. Life is meant for enjoyment. How can you say I am a Vedantin and therefore I don't laugh? It's not possible. Why? Because vairāgya creates joy. A person will live in happiness when there is vairāgya. Please make this point clear in your head. Any other philosophy that says that you go on enjoying, how does it matter, live in happiness, it's a false philosophy. It's not the philosophy meant for a seeker. Why? Because it is not possible to enjoy everything and still remain in that state of joy. It is not possible. Why? Because with every enjoyment, attachment comes. With every attachment, sorrow comes. Attachment leads to sorrow. It is as simple as that. Now, if attachment leads to sorrow, detachment will lead to joy. Vairāgyatna paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ paśyāmi. And therefore, if we want to be happy, the sure short way is to have detachment. When you are watching anything, when do you enjoy? When you are not part of it. Then it can be anything. Some people even have cynistic joy. Two people are fighting, they enjoy. Why? Because you are not part of the fight. But suppose I am the part of the fight, or I have to choose one side, then I cannot enjoy now. You cannot enjoy. IPL is going on. Yesterday was El Clasico, Chennai and Mumbai. If you pick one side, then there is a problem. Why? Because then other side is scoring, you get worried. But you are India's side. So Chennai is also your side, Mumbai is also your side. Then what? Then you sit and enjoy. Whoever is playing good, you enjoy. Why? You are not part of it. You are not attached to it. The same thing with everything, you see. Why do people love to go for marriage? Because that is the place that they can go and enjoy the entire chaos, because you are not part of it. Suppose it is your child's marriage, then you cannot enjoy. Everything is on your head. The person who is getting married never enjoys the marriage. Pavam people, their cheeks start to pain because all the time they are smiling for the camera. 3 hours, 4 hours. They don't enjoy. I am telling you, who enjoy? They can't even eat properly. All the people are there waiting for meeting them, and they don't even get time to go and have lunch. Somebody, please give me little food, little. They are not the ones enjoying. Why? Because they are part of it. The person who is not part of it goes there, checks all the counters, decides what he wants to eat, goes there and eats everything. 3 hours also he continues to eat. Why? Because from first, in India, the marriages go for hours together, no? So there is no problem. So I had soup with some friends, then those friends left with some other gang. I had other things, and then my food continued. I am enjoying. Why? Because I am not part of the whole thing. The real enjoyment is possible when there is detachment. The moment we are attached, it is going to result in sorrow. Today or tomorrow, but it is going to result in sorrow. If in a relationship we are experiencing sorrow, please understand there is attachment involved. Detachment doesn't mean you be indifferent or be rude towards them. That's not detachment. Actually, if you are rude, it is still attachment only. Why? Because hatred is another kind of attachment, stronger than love attachment. Why? Because then again you are not leaving that person. All the time you are holding on that person in your mind. Oh, why did he come and why he had to talk to me? And why are you worried about it? Why? Because I hate that person. The moment I hate, it is also kind of attachment. But when you don't love, don't hate, then what happens? Vairāgyānna paraṃ sukhasya janakaṃ paśyāmi vaśyātmanaḥ. There is no greater joy, creator of joy, than vairāgya. Now, that is not the point of the verse. As I told you, this is the first phrase which is so popular and which is so famous. What he says here is, tachet, if that tat vairāgya, if that vairāgya is shuddhataratmabodha sahitam, if that vairāgya is coupled with shuddhatara atmabodha, purest self-knowledge, swarajya samrajya dukha, then it becomes the giver of samrajya, sovereignty of swarajya, of the self. So that vairāgya, which is the greatest creator of joy, when coupled with purest self-knowledge, it becomes the giver of sovereignty. See the choice of words Shankaracharya is using here. Generally, what we say is, to win a battle, to win a kingdom, what is required? Rajas, fighting, war. That is what is required. That's how we have understood so far. Now he said the real samrajya is won by two things, vairāgya and jnana. Vairāgya and jnana. Actually speaking, very interestingly in politics also, this is the case. We are not talking on politics. I know that. We are talking about Vedanta. But I am saying because the word samrajya has come, please understand what Chanakya was talking about. The entire Chanakya Niti is based on these two things. That you must not have attachment towards your power, towards your position, and you must have knowledge about everything. So his entire strategy was based on these two things. That you should never become corrupt and have knowledge. So spy network, this network, that network, he strengthened. Why? Because if you want to win samrajya, you need these two things. He used to say that the king who is completely immersed in indulgence can never be a good king. So king has to have restrictions. King has to have restraint within. Not that somebody else is bringing that restraint. Once that king himself should have that restraint. And then he should have knowledge. So if you study Chanakya Niti, etc., Chanakya, he has put a schedule for a king. And if you see what all things he has said, king should get up at what time, what he should do, he has put that schedule. If you see that, his focus is on these two things. He says that a king must learn every day some new thing from some spiritual master. He must practice some kind of meditation so that his mind will be under his control. He must talk to his ministers, to his wives, to his spies, everybody individually, never together. So he has got a special time only with spies. He has got special time only with ministers. He has got special time only with his family. He should gain all the knowledge from all of them. Why? Because to gain a kingdom, to win a kingdom and to sustain a kingdom, both these two things are required. I am not saying Shankaracharya is a politician. I am not saying that. But I am saying, you see how he uses the word samrajya here. And he says, now here, what samrajya we are talking about? We are not talking about the outside kingdom. We are talking about swarajya samrajya. Again, highlight this word swarajya samrajya because it is going to come at the end of the text. 575, 576, those verses, no? Through 200 verses down the line, it will come. Again, swarajya word will come. He says that vairāgya, which is the greatest creator of joy, when coupled with the purest of self-knowledge, will give you swarajya samrajya. Now, what do you mean by give swarajya samrajya? It will give you that bliss of the self. It will give you anything and everything. That's what it means. Only vairāgya may not give you everything. Only vairāgya will give you joy. Yes. Why? Because vairāgyatna param sukhasya janakaṃ. But if you want the bliss of the self, then that vairāgya should be coupled with atmajnana. You see? See the kind of clarity Shankaracharya is bringing. Worldly joy is gained by vairāgya. But if you want the bliss of the self, then that vairāgya should be coupled with purest of self-knowledge. Shuddhatara atmabodha sahitam. Etadwaram. This is the doorway. What do you mean this is the doorway? This vairāgya and atmajnana or atmabodha, this is the doorway. Ajasra mukti yuvatehe. Now he is continuing with that thing. Swarajya samrajya, no? So when somebody gets a kingdom, when he becomes a king, what does he get? Lot of harems, etc., lot of girls, women around him. Now here he says this person, this seeker who has got vairāgya and atmajnana, what yuvati is he getting? Yuvati is young damsel. Who is that? Mukti. Liberation is that girl whom he is getting, seeker. What kind of mukti? Ajasra mukti. Ajasra means permanent, unending, infinite. That final liberation this seeker is getting. Yasmat, since it is like this. Since it is like this means what? Since vairāgya coupled with knowledge, coupled with jnana will give you that sovereignty of the self, which is the doorway to liberation. Since it is like this, Asmat param, therefore hereafter, asmat param, hereafter, what you should do? Sarvatra aspruhaya. Sarvatra, everywhere. Aspruhaya, without attachment. Spruha means attachment, craving. Aspruhaya, without any attachment, without any craving. Sadatmani, in that self which is of the nature of sat, existence. Sada prajñāṃ kuru. Always keep your mind in that. So have aspruha and have prajña. Again, what are the two things he is telling? Aspruha means vairāgya and prajña means jnana or bodha. Why? Shreyase, for your own well-being, for your ultimate good, absolute good, shreyas, nishreyas. For that, please have these two things. Aspruhaya, with detachment, keep your mind in that self. Have that knowledge. Okay, that is what he says here. Shankaracharya ji is bringing out the same topics or same points which Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, all these granthas have explained. But he is bringing those topics so beautifully and powerfully that we will understand the significance of them. And then when we study the Shastra Granthas, we understand where this is coming from. Ishavasya Upanishad, very first mantra only says, Tena tyaktena bunjitaha. Now it is very difficult for anybody to explain in the very first mantra. He is also saying Ishavasya midagam sarvam and then Tena tyaktena bunjitaha. Very difficult to enjoy, but one who has studied Prakarana Grantha, all these points become clear. Alright? So he is bringing this topic of vairāgya and atmajnana coupled together, which will give moksha. Now more clarity is given on these 2 points. And as his method is here, is use the longer meter, Shardula Vikradita, to show that this is an important point that we have seen every time. Now he continues with that Shardula Vikradita meter only and further explains what exactly is vairāgya and what exactly is atmajnana. Very beautiful verse, next one also. 378. Asham chindhi vishopameshu vishayeshu eshaiva mrityoh kritihi tyaktva jati kulashrameshvabhimatim munchati durat kriyaha dehādāvasatityajātmadhiṣaṇāṃ prajñāṃ kuruṣvātmani tvam draṣṭāsyamano'si nirdvayaparam brahmāsi yadvastutah āśāṃ chindhi vishopameshu vishayeshu eshaiva mrityoh kritihi tyaktva jati kulashrameshvabhimatim munchati durat kriyaha dehādāvasatityajātmadhiṣaṇāṃ prajñāṃ kuruṣvātmani tvam draṣṭāsyamano'si nirdvayaparam brahmāsi yadvastutah. Now, Asham Chindhi. Now he is explaining what is vairāgya and at what all levels vairāgya is there. First level, Asham Chindhi. Chindhi means cut. What should you cut? Asha. Asha is desire or craving. Craving towards what? Vishopameshu vishayeshu. Vishayeshu. towards the sense objects, visha upameshu, which are like visha, poison. Are you remembering something? Vishayas are like visha? Yes. Yes. Why? Because in the same text, Shankaracharya earlier had explained that he said at that time that visha is okay. Vishaya is even more dangerous. Why? Because visham nihanti bhoktaram. Because visha, poison, kills when somebody takes that poison in the body, when it enters the body. But vishaya kills just by looking, draṣṭāram api. So, there also he had said this point that give up the objects, craving for the sense objects as though they are poison. That's what he says here also. Asham chindi vishopameshu vishayeshu. Why should you do that? Esha eva mrityoh kritihi. Because this asha, this craving for the sense objects itself is mrityoh kritihi, is the act of death. What is this now? Pramado vai mrityuhu. He had said, what is pramada there? He had said that you breaking out into thoughts towards sense objects. That is pramada. And that is death. See how he is in great speeches or stand-up comedy, etc. They say there is one technique called as callback technique. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Callback technique means when you are doing lot of stand-up comedy and doing lots of jokes, at some point of time you call back to your own joke, and that creates maximum laughter, they say. That's one of the best methods. So even if you want to end something, you end with a joke which you have already said and call back to that, and then you end it. I don't know who developed this, but Shankaracharya knew this technique. He is calling back to the points that he himself has mentioned at different points of time. Now he is just putting them together here. He has mentioned at one point of time that vishaya and craving for the vishayas is worse than visha. That he is bringing. He is also bringing, if you do that, if you crave for them, what will happen? It is an act of death. Pramado vai mrityu. So vairāgya, first stage of vairāgya, first step of vairāgya is what? To have no craving, no desires towards the sense objects. Step number one. Stage number one, you can say. Then what? Next one. Tyaktva abhimatim. You see? Tyaktva abhimatim. Abhimatim means what? That mati, thought of abhimana. Abhimati means abhimana's mati. The thought of pride. Towards what? Jati, kula, ashrameshu. Do you know who I am? I am a Brahmin. So? No, I am just telling you. But why you have to tell it? Because I have abhimana for it. So I will bring it out. Kula. You know which family I belong to? That great personality was my father's, uncle's, brother's, somebody. I belong to that kula. Why? Abhimana. Ashrameshu. In different stages of life, order of life. In all these, you give up this pride. Why? Because through this kind of pride only, we will get entangled into worldly things. No, why are you saying like this? Because liberation does not depend on any of these things. The spiritual life does not see what jati you are from or what kula or what ashrama. It doesn't matter. Gender, nationality, it doesn't matter. So, very fact that you are attached to these kind of things means you are still worldly. Don't have that. So, that is next stage. First, give up the craving for the sense objects. Then give up this kind of pride for what you have or what you are. What you think you are. Give up that pride. Next what? Muncha ati durat kriyaha. Now what? Kriyaha. Selfish actions which are based on these things. based on your pride, etc. Ati durat muncha. Give up far. By far you give up. Means what? Don't even go for such actions. So, different stages of vairagya is explaining. Objects, then pride, then selfish actions. Now what? Go to next level, the subtler level. What? Dehādau asati tyaja atmadhishanam. Dehādau, in the body, etc. Asati, asati, which are not sat, which are asat. In the body, etc., upadhis which are unreal, which are not real, atmadhishanam tyaja. Give up notion of I. Give up that identification in the upadhis. Atmadhishanam tyaja. So, what he has done is, he has explained vairagya in these 4 stages. Give up the craving for sense objects. Give up the pride for what you have or what you are. Give up the actions which you are basing on all these things. And then give up identification. This, all these 4 stages together is called as vairagya. Now what? Now what is jnana? Next phrase explains what is jnana. Pradnyam kurushva atmani. Atmani pradnyam kurushva. You please fix your mind on the self. Atmani, on the self. Pradnyam kurushva. Kurushva. What you say? Do it. Do pradnya. Do pradnya means fix your mind. Practice samadhi. Gain that knowledge of the self. What kind of knowledge are we talking about? Explain further. Tvam draṣṭāsyamano'si. Tvam draṣṭāsyamano'si. You are the seer. Amanaḥ. You are that self which is beyond the mind. Amanaḥ. In some pathas, I think it is also amalaḥ. That's also fine. You are the seer who is pure. Amalaḥ, without any impurity. Nirdvaya param brahma asi. You are that Brahman which is nirdvaya param. Nirdvaya means nirdvaya, no duality. Advaya, same, nirdvaya. Param, supreme. You are that supreme non-dual Brahman. Yat vastutaha, because you are of this nature, therefore fix your mind on that self. So in this verse, what Shankaracharya is telling is, he is telling us to do this vairagya and atmajnana together, but he is further explaining what exactly is vairagya and what exactly is atmajnana. So all 4 stages of vairagya he has explained, that craving towards sense objects should be given up, pride towards one's caste, family, order, etc. should be given up, selfish action should be given up, and identification in the unreal upadhi should be given up. This is called as vairagya. And atmajnana is what? To realize that I am of the nature of seer, who is without the mind and who is of the nature of non-dual supreme Brahman. These 2 we must gain. Why? Because these 2 will lead to atma sakshatkara and further to the experience of bliss. Okay. With this, he concludes this topic. Very beautiful topic of vairagya, and how that vairagya, when coupled with atmajnana, results in that atma sakshatkara and rasanubhuti, ananda rasanubhuti. That he has explained. Now, he is not completely over with this topic, but he takes to the next topic of giving the steps for nirvikalpa samadhi. He will come back to this vairagya and atmajnana. All right. Very beautiful portion this is. Sufficient for today. The more we reflect on such wonderful ideas of great masters, the more clarity we get in our spiritual path. And today what point we have seen, I have mentioned earlier also, whatever I say is less than what actually importance this particular section has for seekers. Vairagya and jnana, and how both of them are important for a seeker. Whatever we say will still be less. Chalo. We'll conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.